X-ray Victors were ordered to get out of the way of the B-52 bombings by marching overland to 2 landing zones. One was an artillery landing zone dubbed LZ Columbus, and the other was for helicopters, its name LZ Albany. The Columbus-bound unit reached the LZ without incident. But the troopers bound for LZ Albany ran headlong into a strong enemy column marching to attack the Airmobile artillery at LZ Columbus. A fierce firefight resulted. It was, in the end, another disaster for the enemy. By November 24th, the NVA was recoiling in defeat, abandoning its camps in the Ia Drang and the Chupong Mountains. They retreated, taking their wounded with them. Left behind were almost 2,000 enemy dead and prisoners, plus large stores of supplies and many weapons. The Pleiku campaign, better known to First Cav men as the Battle of the Ia Drang Valley, was over. Its effect was profound and long-lasting. The American victory proved that the best of the enemy forces, North Vietnam Army regulars, could be stopped cold and destroyed in their own sanctuaries. No longer could the communists hope to win the war on the battlefield. Most important to the men of the First Cavalry Division, Ia Drang had proved beyond question the soundness of the air-mobile approach to ground warfare. It was a well-deserved award when the Air Cav received a Presidential Unit Citation for the entire division and its supporting units, an award so rare it had been made only 5 times in Army history. The division's main thrust in 1966 turned toward the central coastal region of South Vietnam, particularly in the area of Bang Son, a town which gave the campaign its name. Strong air-mobile forces carried out a lightning series of forays against the Viet Cong, who held over 140,000 people in subjection. Each operation was carried out with polished efficiency, using tactics now thoroughly tested in battle. Devastating pre-strike bombardment by Air Force fighter bombers. Attached supporting artillery. Gunships darting in to strafe the landing zone perimeter with rocket fire. Automatic weapons. Infantry assault waves rushing from troop carriers to set up a defense line on the LZ perimeter, while succeeding waves of riflemen advanced through them. Beginning with an airlift into the An Lao Valley, the troopers pushed through all kinds of terrain in their pursuit of the enemy. They rooted out the VC from well-camouflaged nests of bunkers and tunnels. The fighting was bitter, and casualties inevitable. By the spring of 1966, scores of villages had been flushed to the enemy, and hundreds of suspects identified for questioning. The immediate threat to Bang Son and other coastal cities was ended. In the operations that followed during the rest of the year, Thayer, Pershing, John Paul Jones, Paul Revere, and many more, the 1st Cav, often working with ARVN or Korean troops, continued to clear the huge rice-producing province of Binh Dinh of VC control. The cavalrymen took time whenever they could to feed the liberated South Vietnamese, who had been stripped of their crops by the Viet Cong. Many Vietnamese received medical care for the first time for ailments that had afflicted them all their lives. The speedy air-mobile assaults of the 1st Cav brought impressive results, as many NVA soldiers surrendered, bringing large quantities of their weapons with them. With every operation, the 1st Cav continued to improve its air-mobile techniques. One lesson learned was to travel as light as possible. Troopers carried only weapons, ammo, and 2 canteens of water, depending on helicopters for further supply. The artillery learned how to be weight watchers, too. The M102 version of the 105mm howitzer was 1,200 pounds lighter than the earlier model. Bulky radio equipment was scaled down in size and weight. This assembly of 2 radio sets and an intercom was reduced from 600 to 150 pounds. Collapsible fuel bladders, each with a 500-gallon capacity, replaced metal containers and were air transportable. This technical ingenuity, always air-mobile oriented, paid off as operations rolled on into 1967 with Pershing, Wheeler, Jeb Stuart, and others. The pressure on the enemy never relented as the choppers took to the air day and night, in foul weather as well as fair. Nowhere in this wild, trackless country was the Viet Cong safe from air-mobile probes. They were pursued deep into the jungle, sought out high on mountaintops. They were challenged in their most distant hideouts. It made no difference that the 1st Cav men who had come to Vietnam in 1965, the original 1st team, had all been rotated home. It was a completely fresh division now, but it was still very much the 1st team. They took over with smooth professionalism, planning each operation minutely, then lashing out at the Viet Cong with swift, stunning air assaults. The most battle-hardened enemy troops broke under the rain of fires that lashed at them incessantly from the air. And from the ground as giant 8-inch howitzers reinforced the air-mobile batteries. Throughout 1967, the 1st Cav troopers constantly took the initiative, showing that they too could use the cunning arts of guerrilla warfare, stalking the enemy across rice paddies, swamps, through jungle and forest, frequently stopping to slug it out in one firefight after another, virtually toe-to-toe, breaking his will to resist, destroying him when he took refuge in tunnel or bunker. The toll among the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese rose steeply, with a record number killed in Operation Jeb Stuart, while scores of others surrendered. It was a grind, but only the troopers' feet tired, not their fighting spirit. They were heartened by the armor that joined the ground forces whenever terrain allowed. Armored personnel carriers and foot soldiers spraying enemy positions with machine gun fire, small arms, grenades. These spoiling actions kept the enemy off balance, forcing him repeatedly to abort attack plans. When he chose to fight because of superior numbers, the 1st Cav poured in reinforcements with air-mobile swiftness. This quick reaction capability paid off early in 1968. When the Viet Cong launched its Tet Offensive against South Vietnamese cities, diversionary tactics to pin down 1st Cav units were quickly thrown back by the fast-moving, hard-fighting sky troopers. Not long afterward, the Air Cav men played a major role in the relief of Khe Sanh, where a Marine regiment and South Vietnamese troops were encircled by North Vietnam Army units. To relieve them, elements of the 1st Cav were committed to Operation Pegasus in April of 1968. Jumping off from an advanced base at LZ Stud, the Sky Troopers set out to link up with the defenders of Khe Sanh. Resistance was light. the air cavalrymen easily broke through and found Quezon to be a very dusty place. When the dust settled, it was business as usual for the sky troopers. The aerial supply chain went into high gear. Attack plans were made with the usual first cav efficiency. The troopers went about the job they knew and liked best, to engage the enemy, harass and punish him with firepower. Then fearlessly close with him, storming the bunkers and strong points with which he had surrounded the Marine base. This cleanup operation was pursued vigorously into the summer of 1968, when Quezon, having outlived its strategic usefulness, was closed down. The northwest corner of South Vietnam, where Quezon is located, has a long, irregular border in common with Laos. It is ideal country for infiltration. The North Vietnamese were quick to move troops and supplies into the remote A Shau Valley via the Ho Chi Minh Trail. High in the mountains, the valley is covered with a triple canopy jungle, 100 feet tall, and shrouded in fog and mist 10 months of the year. This near-perfect sanctuary was broken into by the air cavalrymen in the spring of 1968. The flying troopers coordinated their battle actions with paratroopers of the 101st Airborne Division and the South Vietnamese Army. Murderously heavy fire from high-altitude anti-aircraft guns attempted to turn back the A Shau invasion. Several aircraft were lost, but the troop-carrying choppers made their touchdown. The cavalrymen found an extensive road net, but few signs of the enemy in person. There was little resistance. The North Vietnamese had literally run for the hills. The cavalrymen consoled themselves with the knowledge that they had captured, virtually intact, one of the greatest storehouses of weapons and war materiel ever assembled by the communists in South Vietnam. The Air Cav met each blow with lightning-swift counterblows, sending its airmobile power ranging far and wide to support other units of the Allied forces in combined operations. Supremely confident in its brilliant battle record and the success of its air-mobile doctrine, now accepted throughout the United States Army, the 1st Cav continues to serve far from home as long as needed. The pioneering days of air-mobile operations are past. Changes and improvements impend. Bigger, more powerful Army aircraft, promising even more effective helicopter tactics. In these advances, the 1st Cavalry Division Air Mobile will, as always, lead the way.